The warning ignored, the chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with bright lights and polished walls. Delegates from dozens of species sat in high seats, their robes shining with jewels. They spoke with calm voices, as if they owned the stars. To them, Earth was nothing but a small world, weak and unimportant. A young messenger entered the chamber, his breathing heavy. His skin was pale and his hands trembled as he held a glowing data crystal. "Council members," he began, his voice shaking, "I bring news from the Terran front." The delegates barely looked at him. A tall, scaled alien waved a hand lazily. "The Terrans?" He laughed. "What could these primitives possibly do? We should be discussing trade routes, not savages." But the messenger did not stop. He placed the crystal in the center of the hall. A hologram flickered into view. Ships, burning in the black of space, fleets torn apart, alien warriors screaming as explosions swallowed them whole. The images were raw, unfiltered, undeniable. Gasps echoed through the chamber. This cannot be," muttered one elder with 3 eyes. His fingers tapped nervously on the desk. That was the 12th Fleet. It was said to be invincible. The messenger swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "Invincible? No, Counselor. They are gone. Every ship destroyed. The humans—" He stopped, shivering. "The humans fought back. They fought like no species I have ever seen. They did not retreat, even as their cities burned. They fought with everything, missiles, blades, even their own bodies. They refused to die quietly." The counselors exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time in centuries, the chamber felt cold. An insectoid delegate hissed, his wings twitching. "This is impossible. Humans are nothing. Their planet is poor, their technology backward. How could they destroy one of our fleets?" Cry. Messenger's eyes burned with memory. "Because they do not care about dying. They fight as if every battle is their last. They fight as if they want to take the enemy with them into death. We thought them weak, but their weakness is their strength. They know pain, they know loss, and it makes them savage." Silence fell. One elder leaned forward, his voice low. Perhaps the humans should be left alone." But others laughed, though their voices were nervous. "Fear? Of a Deathworld species? Nonsense. Their victory is luck, nothing more. If they resist again, we will crush them with another fleet." The messenger clenched his fists. He wanted to shout, to warn them, but he was only a messenger. His words were drowned in arrogance. The council decided to ignore the warning. They turned their gaze back to politics, to taxes, to borders. Yet outside, in the cold void of space, Earth was already rising. On the blue planet, smoke curled over ruined cities. Families buried their dead, but their eyes burned with fire. Scientists worked day and night in hidden bunkers, building weapons never meant to exist. Soldiers swore oaths over mass graves, vowing to avenge their fallen. Ordinary men and women, farmers, workers, children, picked up rifles and learned to fight. The invaders thought Earth was broken, but Earth was alive, and its heart beat with courage. Back in the council chamber, one old delegate whispered to himself, unheard by the others. His eyes were wide with fear. "If the humans rise, they will not stop. They will not forgive. They will come for us all." His words vanished in the noise of laughter and dismissal, but history would remember them, for this was the beginning of Earth's retaliation, a retaliation so savage that the galaxy itself would tremble. The first strike dark clouds hung over Earth, carrying the smoke of ruined cities. The alien fleet had come with fire and arrogance, believing they could take the planet in days. They burned towns, destroyed satellites, and sent messages of surrender. But the messages were met with silence. Humanity was not finished. Humanity was waiting. In the shadows of the moon, hidden deep inside hollowed-out craters, old warships waited. They were not pretty. Their armor was patched with steel from scrapyards, their engines noisy and unstable, their weapons old but deadly. These ships had been kept secret for years, ignored by the very council that mocked humans. They were humanity's last chance, and tonight they would rise. Inside one of the ships, Captain Elias Cole stood on the command deck. His uniform was torn, stained with smoke and blood, but his eyes were sharp. Before him, screens showed the wall, alien armada drifting above Earth like a predator watching its prey. "Are we ready?" he asked. "Yes, Captain," replied his second officer, a young woman whose family had been lost in the first wave of attacks. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from fury. "All ships report ready. Weapons armed. Crews waiting for your signal." Cole looked at the image of Earth on the screen, its blue oceans scarred with fire, its cities glowing with destruction. He closed his eyes for a moment, whispering a silent promise to the dead. Then, with a steady voice, he gave the order, "Unleash hell." From the shadows, the hidden Terran fleet roared to life. Engines thundered, and old cannons charged with stolen energy cores. One by one, ships broke free of the lunar craters, rising into the black sky like angry spirits. The aliens, arrogant and unprepared, never expected resistance. The first barrage struck before the invaders could react. Missiles screamed across the void, slamming into alien hulls. Bright explosions lit the stars. Alien crews shouted in panic, their screens flashing red as fire consumed their ships. "Human ships, impossible!" one alien commander cried. "Where did they come from?" But there was no time to answer. The humans attacked with everything. Old nuclear warheads, electromagnetic, cannons, and even railguns made from Earth's mining tools. Each shot carried the fury of a dying world. Each explosion was a message. "We will not die quietly." The alien fleet tried to regroup, their advanced shields and weapons powering up. But the humans did not fight like soldiers of the Council. They fought like survivors. They aimed for engines, for fuel tanks, for weak points the aliens never expected. They used tactics no one dared in civilized wars, ramming ships, overloading reactors, detonating inside enemy formations. One human frigate, already burning, turned straight into a battleship, 10 times its size. The alien ship laughed at the tiny craft, until the humans triggered their engines at full power and rammed straight into its heart. The explosion was so bright that even Earth's surface saw it. Cole's voice echoed across the comms. "Show them what Earth can do." Every crew member screamed their fury into the night as they fired. Every man and woman who had lost a child, a parent, a lover now struck back with rage. The sky above Earth was no longer filled with silence. It was filled with fire, smoke, and screams. For the first time in centuries, an alien fleet was not victorious. For the first time, they felt fear. Back in the council chambers, silent screens flickered with live reports. Delegates leaned forward in disbelief as they saw the impossible. Their proud 12th Fleet, destroyed, scattered, humiliated by humans they once mocked. One elder whispered in shock, They fight like no species I've ever seen. They fight as if death is nothing." Another delegate trembled. "If they can destroy a fleet, what will they do when they rise even further?" But in that moment, on Earth, there was no thought of the future. There was only fire, vengeance, and survival. Captain Cole stood tall, watching alien wrecks fall burning into Earth's atmosphere. His ship shook from damage, but his voice was steady. "This is only the beginning," he told his crew. "They thought we were weak. They thought we would break. But tonight the galaxy will learn. We are not prey." His words spread across the human fleet, carried by static, by broken signals, by desperate voices. And across the stars, the message began to echo. Earth had struck back, and the galaxy would never forget the first strike. The silent council, the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, had never been so quiet. Normally, the air buzzed with voices, with endless debates about trade taxes, border patrols, and who deserved more influence. But today, silence ruled. The great holographic table in the center of the hall showed live footage from Earth's orbit, burning wrecks of alien ships drifting lifelessly through space. Dozens of alien delegates stared at the sight. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their ornate robes rustling like whispers in a graveyard. Others simply froze, their wide eyes locked on the impossible truth. Humanity, weak, ignored, dismissed, had destroyed an entire fleet. The Fardir, 12th Fleet, the pride of the Council, gone. A tall insectoid delegate broke the silence first. His wings flicked nervously as he hissed, "This cannot be real. Their weapons are outdated, their fleets are tiny, their world half-broken. How could they defeat us?" Another counselor with silver scales running down his long neck slammed a fist against the table. "They did not defeat us with power. They defeated us with rage. Look at the tactics: suicidal charges, reactor detonations, desperate strikes. They fight without fear of death. It makes them dangerous. Too dangerous." Murmurs filled the chamber, but no one laughed this time. No one called humans primitive or savages. The laughter was gone, replaced with unease. An elder, with 3 luminous eyes, leaned forward, his voice trembling. "This is what happens when you strike a Deathworld species. You corner them, and they bite until you bleed. You cannot measure humans by numbers or ships. You must measure them by their will." The council chair, a being older than most of the empires represented, sat in silence for a long time. Finally she raised her voice, calm but heavy. "And what shall we do? Shall we send another fleet? Shall we pour more blood into the Terran fires?" The question hung in the air. One delegate shouted quickly, desperate to sound strong. "Of course we must crush them before they gain momentum. If they rise any higher, they will be impossible to contain. We must burn Earth down to ashes, scatter its people into dust." But another delegate stood, shaking his head. His skin was pale blue, his voice unsteady. "And if we fail again? What then? We have already lost 1 fleet. Do you not understand? Every human victory makes them stronger. Every death fuels their fury. You think you will break them with fear? No, you will only create monsters." The words cut deep and silence returned. The council chair's eyes narrowed. "Reports say survivors of the 12th Fleet witnessed human ships ramming into battleships. Humans detonated their reactors just to destroy us. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. What kind of species does this?" The 3-eyed elder spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. "A species that has nothing left to lose." For a moment, no one spoke. The chamber felt colder, as if the very walls feared the words spoken within. Finally, a younger delegate from a minor empire raised her voice timidly. "We thought Earth was prey, but perhaps they are something else, something worse." Another replied bitterly, "Not prey, predators." The council chamber erupted into nervous debate. Voices clashed, some calling for immediate extermination, others begging for diplomacy before it was too late. The sound rose higher and higher until it felt like the walls themselves might crack. And then, without warning, the great chamber, doors opened. The messenger who had warned them earlier staggered inside once more. His clothes were torn, his face pale, but his voice carried the weight of dread. "Another transmission," he said, dropping a data crystal onto the table. "From the humans." The crystal lit up, projecting shaky footage. A human captain stood on the deck of a battered warship, his face covered in soot, his eyes burning with rage. Behind him, alien wrecks floated like corpses in the void. The captain's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "You came to our home. You burned our cities. You killed our children. And you thought we would bow." His voice shook, not with fear, but with fury. "We will never bow. If you return, we will burn your fleets. If you return, we will hunt you across the stars. If you return, we will bring war to your worlds." The message ended, leaving only silence. The chamber was still. Not even a breath could be heard. Delegates who once mocked humanity now stared at the empty space above the table, haunted by the promise. Finally, the council chair whispered what many were now thinking. "We have awakened something terrible, and it will not go back to sleep." The words carried through the chamber like a curse. For the first time in the council's long history, every empire felt fear, not of each other, not of some great beast from the outer rim. Fear of Earth. Earth's fury, unleashed. The world that once sang with life was now scarred. Cities stood, in ruins, streets filled with ash and smoke, and the cries of the wounded echoed through the rubble. Yet amid the destruction, something fierce had awakened. Humanity was no longer a victim. Humanity was preparing for war. In the shattered remains of New Chicago, survivors gathered in the underground tunnels that once served as subway lines. Now they were shelters and command posts. Soldiers in patched armor trained civilians, teaching them how to aim rifles, how to set explosives, how to survive. Children watched silently from the shadows, their eyes too old for their age. Colonel Ramirez walked through the tunnels, his boots crunching over broken stone. He stopped at a group of young men and women practicing with outdated rifles. Their hands shook, not from fear but from exhaustion. Still, they didn't stop. They didn't complain. "Sir," one of them said, lowering her weapon. She looked no older than 17. "Will it matter? We are farmers, students, not warriors. They have fleets, they have armies. What can we do?" Ramirez looked at her, his eyes heavy but burning. "You can fight. And when you fight, you are more dangerous than they will ever understand. We are not just soldiers. We are survivors, and survivors never die easy." The girl straightened her shoulders and gripped her rifle tighter. Around her, others nodded, determination replacing doubt. Far beneath the Rocky Mountains, deep in hidden laboratories, scientists worked day and night without rest. Generators hummed, machines whirred, and sparks flew as weapons were forged from whatever scraps remained. Old satellites were repurposed into makeshift cannons. Civilian ships were armored with steel plates, turned into war vessels. Nuclear warheads, once locked away as relics of fear, were being armed again. Dr. Aisha Khan stood before a screen filled with schematics. Her eyes were red from sleepless nights, but her hands moved quickly, rewriting code, rerouting power, forcing machines to do what they were never built to do. Her assistant whispered, "Doctor, this design, it's unstable. If we test it..." She cut him off. "We don't have time for stable. We need weapons that terrify. If we cannot outmatch them with numbers, we will outmatch them with madness." And so humanity built weapons that no council, engineer could predict, fueled not by wealth or technology but by desperation and fury. In the ruins of London, survivors lit fires and sang songs of defiance. In Africa, villages turned into fortresses. In Asia, factories ran without pause, producing drones and rockets from spare metal. Across the world, Earth was rising like a wounded beast, its pain turned into strength. On the front lines, Captain Elias Cole and his battered fleet orbited above, guarding what remained. His ships were broken, but their crews refused to rest. Men with bandaged arms loaded weapons. Women with burns repaired engines. No one asked for sleep. No one asked for food. They all asked the same question. When do we strike again? Cole stood at the viewport, watching Earth's surface glow with both fire and life. He remembered his wife, lost in the first wave of attacks, and the promise he made at her grave. We will not be their prey. A message crackled through the comms. A scout ship reported another alien fleet approaching, smaller, cautious, but still dangerous. Cole's lips curved into a grim smile. Good. Let them come. They will see what Earth has become. Back in the Galactic Council, whispers spread like wildfire. Reports came in of Earth's preparations, of humans arming themselves in numbers never imagined. One delegate slammed his clawed hand on the table. They do not rebuild, they transform. Every wound makes them stronger. Every death makes them louder. Another muttered, voice full of dread. This is no longer war. This is vengeance. On Earth, Colonel Ramirez addressed his soldiers one last time before the next battle. His voice carried through loudspeakers across camps and shelters. Listen to me. They came to our home. They thought we would break. But look at us. We are still here. We breathe. We fight. We rise. Let the galaxy hear us roar. Earth does not kneel. A thunderous cheer rose from the crowd. Men, women, children. It did not matter. They all shouted as one. Their voices shook the ruins carried into the night sky. The alien invaders had thought they broke Earth. But Earth was alive. and Earth was angry. The fury of billions now burned in every human heart. And when that fury was unleashed, no fleet, no army, no council could stand in its way. This was not the end of humanity. This was the beginning of their retaliation. The desperate plea, the war halls of the Galactic Council smelled of fear. For the first time in living memory, the proud generals of the Council stood not with arrogance but with trembling hands. They had lost fleets before, yes, but never to. A species so small, so primitive, so unworthy of their notice. Yet here they were, defeated again and again by Earth. General Koresh, commander of the once mighty 12th Fleet, knelt in the chamber, his armor scorched, his pride shattered. His voice rasped as he spoke to the council. You do not understand what you have unleashed. These humans, they fight as if every death is a seed. For every soldier that falls, 10 rise in their place. For every city they lose, they build. 10 new weapons. I beg you, stop this war before it is too late. The chamber buzzed with uneasy whispers. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably in their golden seats, others turned away in denial. An insectoid counselor spat, his wings buzzing angrily. You beg for mercy from primitives? Shameful. We have ruled this galaxy for thousands of years. One planet of savages will not change that. But Koresh slammed his fist to the floor, his single surviving eye burned with terror. You do not see what I saw. I saw humans charge into gunfire without armor. I saw them turn broken ships into weapons of destruction. I saw them laugh as they died, knowing they would take us with them. They are not like us. They are not bound by fear. The council chair leaned forward, her face grim. And what do you suggest, General? Koresh hesitated. The words tasted like poison. Peace. Give them what they want. Withdraw. Leave Earth. Before they decide not only to defend, but to conquer. A roar of outrage filled the chamber. Dozens of voices shouted at once. Coward. Traitor. Humans cannot conquer us. Yet amid the fury, a heavy silence fell again as a messenger rushed inside, his robes torn, his face pale. He carried a new crystal glowing faintly. My lords. A transmission, he whispered, dropping the crystal onto the table. The hologram lit the room with cold blue light. This time it was no captain but a captured alien. Commander speaking, his face bruised, his eyes wide with fear. Behind him, human soldiers stood in silence, their rifles steady, their expressions hard. The alien stammered, his words shaking. They did not kill me. They wanted me to speak, to warn you. He swallowed hard, his gaze darting to the humans behind him. They say the war is no longer defense. They say they are coming for us now. Gasps rippled across the chamber. One delegate demanded, What do they mean, coming for us? The prisoner closed his eyes, whispering, They are hunting. Already, small fleets of humans are leaving Earth. They are targeting supply lines, outpost colonies. They do not fight for territory, they fight for blood, they fight to make us afraid. The hologram ended. The chamber erupted into chaos. Some shouted for immediate retaliation, others whispered in terror that it was already too late. Meanwhile, across the stars, the proof was clear. On a mining world belonging to the Council, alarms screamed as human raiders struck in the night. They came in ships cobbled from wreckage, armored with rage instead of shields. They moved like shadows, striking supply depots and communication towers. Explosions ripped across the colony, fire devouring everything. One alien officer screamed, into his comms, Who are they? What do they want? The answer came in a cold human voice broadcast across the burning colony. We want you to remember what fear feels like. And then the line went dead. Back in the council chamber, generals and delegates shouted over one another. Exterminate them now. They will destroy everything. We must act before the fire spreads. But the three-eyed elder, who had spoken before, raised his voice once more, cutting through the noise. Do you not see? We cannot stop them. Not with fleets, not with weapons, not with threats. Humans are no longer defending their home. They are carrying war into our homes. And soon, they will not stop at war. They will demand justice. They will demand vengeance. The council fell into silence again, heavy and suffocating. Even the proudest among them felt it now, the creeping realization that humanity had slipped from their control. And for the first time, whispers of surrender moved like shadows through the hall. The final message above the scarred planet, human warships, drifted like silent predators. Their hulls were battered, their engines burned with strain, yet none had fallen. Wreckage of alien ships floated around them, glowing embers in the dark. Inside the flagship Resolute, Captain Elias Cole stood before the central comms console. His uniform was torn, his face marked with soot, but his voice was steady as stone. Around him, the crew waited in silence. They all knew what this broadcast meant. It was not just a warning, it was a declaration. Cole glanced once at the faces of his crew, survivors of lost families, soldiers with eyes hardened by fire. The galaxy still thinks we are prey, he said quietly. It's time we tell them the truth. He pressed the control, and across the stars, human faces appeared on alien screens. From the richest council worlds to the smallest colonies, every being who owned a receiver saw them. Cole's image flickered into alien halls, markets, temples, and war rooms. His voice carried raw fury, wrapped in iron. You came to our world, he began, his words slow and deliberate. You burned our homes. You slaughtered our children. You thought we would beg, you thought we would break. His eyes narrowed, and the crew behind him stood taller, their faces grim and unflinching. You were wrong. Silence rippled through alien chambers as the message continued. We did not ask for this war. We never wanted your fleets in our skies. But now you have it, and now you will learn what it means to fight humanity. We do not forgive, we do not retreat, and we do not die quietly. The image shifted. Alien cameras captured scenes of Earth's fury, factories blazing with production, civilians turned soldiers, children carrying rifles with unshakable eyes, broken cities where people still sang as they rebuilt, voices carrying louder than the flames. Cole's voice thundered again. You think death frightens us? No, death is our companion. We have lived with it on a world that kills the weak every day. But if you bring death to our door, we will share it with you. If you burn our homes, we will burn your empires. If you strike at us again, we will bring war to your very heart. In 1,000 alien chambers, the words struck like thunder. Entire marketplaces froze, crowds staring wide-eyed at the broadcast. Soldiers on distant colonies trembled, their claws or hands tightening around their weapons. Even mighty generals leaned forward, their voices caught in their throats. On the council homeworld, the chamber of delegates watched in suffocating silence. None dared interrupt. None dared laugh. Cole's voice softened for a moment, carrying both grief and fire. We never asked for this, but we will finish it. Remember our words, Council. Remember them well. If you return, we will hunt you. If you threaten Earth again, we will end you. And if you force us to, we will burn your worlds to ash. The broadcast ended. The screen went dark. For a long, unbearable moment, the galaxy itself seemed silent. On a desert colony far from Earth, a young alien merchant whispered to no one in particular. They sound less like prey and more like executioners. In a military barracks on the rim, a soldier dropped his weapon, his hands shaking. They do not fight for conquest, they fight for survival. That is why we cannot beat them. Back in the council chamber, the delegates sat frozen. No debates, no laughter. The council chair's hands gripped the table tightly. We thought they were beneath us, she whispered. But perhaps we are beneath them. An elder delegate, with trembling eyes, finally spoke what many feared to say aloud. This war is already lost. Even if we destroy them, the memory of their fury will poison us for generations. We cannot win against a species that turns pain into power. Around, her silence deepened. Even the proudest races of the galaxy had no answer. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people did not rest. They rebuilt their defenses, they trained their young, They armed their fleets. To them, the broadcast was not an end, but a promise. In the underground tunnels of New Chicago, Colonel Ramirez listened to the playback with his soldiers. He raised his rifle high and shouted, "The galaxy has heard us, now let them fear us." The tunnels erupted in thunderous cheers. In the secret labs under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Khan allowed herself a single tired smile. Now they know what it means to awaken Earth. And in the skies above, Captain Cole stood at the viewport, watching the stars with cold determination. "They thought we were prey," he murmured, his voice low but unbreakable. "Now they will see the hunters." The message had been sent. The galaxy had heard it, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Council in fear. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had seen countless debates, wars declared, peace treaties signed. But never before had it felt like this. The air was heavy, thick with dread. The broadcast from Earth still hung in every mind, its words echoing like thunder inside their skulls. Delegates who once spoke with arrogance now sat silent. Some avoided each other's eyes. Others tapped their claws, wings, or fingers nervously against the polished stone table. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's rulers were united in one thing only: fear. The council chair stood slowly, her robe trembling with her movements. Her voice, once commanding, now felt thin. "You have all seen it. You have all heard their message. Humanity has declared its intent. They are not asking for mercy. They are not asking for peace. They are promising vengeance." Murmurs spread across the chamber like a sickness. An insectoid delegate buzzed his wings. "We cannot allow this. They are still weak. If we strike, now..." A scaled delegate interrupted sharply, his voice shaking. "Strike now? Against a species that laughs at death? Against warriors who turn their own destruction into weapons? If we send another fleet, it will vanish like the 12th. Do you wish to feed them more fuel for their rage?" The chamber broke into chaos. Some shouted for extermination. Others begged for retreat. Some whispered of surrender, their voices nearly lost beneath the storm. Finally, the elder with 3 luminous eyes rose. The same one who had spoken warnings before, the same one ignored again and again. His gaze swept across the chamber. "You do not understand what you face. These are Deathworlders. Their planet forged them in fire, storms, and endless struggle. You thought them fragile because they bleed easily. But it is precisely because they bleed that they have learned never to stop fighting." He raised a trembling hand, pointing at the dark screen where the human captain's image had last stood. "This is not prey. This is not even predator. This is a force of nature. You may kill millions, but millions more will rise. You may burn their cities, but their ashes will rise into weapons. And if you push them further, they will not stop until your thrones, your palaces, your very homes burn as theirs have burned." The chamber fell into stunned silence. One young delegate whispered, what many were too afraid to say, perhaps. "Perhaps they will become the new rulers." The words struck like lightning. No one dared agree aloud, yet none denied it either. The thought hung in the air, poisonous and undeniable. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, reports poured in. Human raiding. Parties had struck another colony, dismantling supply lines with ruthless efficiency. An alien garrison surrendered without a fight after finding a single human transmission carved into the walls. "We are coming." The fear spread faster than the humans themselves. Civilian worlds whispered stories of Terran vengeance. Soldiers, who once marched proudly, now hesitated before leaving their barracks. Generals who had mocked Earth now refused to meet their troops' eyes. The myth of humanity grew larger with each passing day, larger than their fleets, larger than their weapons. Back on Earth, the people rebuilt, not with despair, but with fire in their hearts. Factories produced warships from scrap. Cities scarred by bombs became rallying points where songs of resistance echoed through the night. Children grew up not with fear, but with pride, knowing their generation would carry the torch of defiance. And above them, in orbit, Captain Elias Cole stood on the deck of the Resolute, staring out at the endless stars. His ship, battered and scarred, was no longer a symbol of desperation. It was a banner of fury, a promise of retaliation. "They will remember us," he murmured, "not as victims, but as a storm." Back in the council, the chair finally spoke again. Her voice trembled. "We sit at a turning point. If we continue this war, we may doom ourselves. If we retreat, we may still doom ourselves. There is no path that spares us from the shadow of Earth. The question now is not how we will fight them." She paused, her eyes sweeping across the chamber filled with silent, terrified faces, but how long we can survive against them. No one laughed. No one argued. The silence that followed was not just quiet. It was surrender. The silent acknowledgement that the galaxy's age had shifted. For thousands of years, the Council had ruled unchallenged. But now a new power had risen from a single blue planet, scarred yet unbroken. Humanity had been forced into the fire, and from that fire, something terrible had been born. They were no longer seen as prey. They were no longer underestimated. From this day forward, one truth would haunt every corner of the galaxy. Earth had unleashed its fury, and the galaxy would never be the same again.